As the world began to reorient itself after the devastation of World War II, it became apparent that two new superpowers had emerged: the United States and its allies, and the Soviet Union. An ancient proverb says that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and in the case of the US and the Soviets, once the shared enemy of the Nazis was gone, so was their friendship. The war had ended with the US dropping 2 nuclear bombs on Japan, killing hundreds of thousands of civilians. And as it soon became clear that the Soviets had also developed nuclear bombs and were building their arsenal, world peace felt like it was once again teetering on a knife edge. All it took was one of these two saber-rattling superpowers to hit the launch button, and untold destruction would rain down upon the Earth. So what does any of this have to do with the internet? Well, it was this fear and the questions of how to respond to it that set into motion the series of innovations that would eventually birth the internet. How did that happen? Let's get started and find out. In 1958, the US Secretary of Defense set into motion a new initiative that was called DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. And one of their chief problems to solve was how to maintain communications and the flow of information in the wake of a nuclear attack on America. In particular, thinking of the powerful computers they increasingly depended on for military defense data. The solution was the idea of a computer network, where the data could be shared, thereby providing something of a failsafe. The funding came from the drive for a system that could survive a nuclear attack, but for many of the academics involved in the actual work, their motivation was instead their frustration at the limited access that existed to the few really powerful research computers, and the belief they should be accessible for researchers all over the country. They called the project ARPANET, the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, and its first successful iteration in 1969 connected 4 different locations: the University of California, Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, the Stanford Research Institute, and the University of Utah School of Computing. From there, the network continued to grow until in 1977 it looked something like this. Now, if we begin to dig into the processes that made this possible, we get into some really fascinating stuff, which is still the backbone of the internet today. And the first of these processes was called packet switching. To explain packet switching, we first need to talk about circuit switching. Circuit switching was the technology on which our traditional landline phone network was built, and probably the best physical description of that is the exact process on which it used to operate. In the early days of the telephone service, when a person wanted to make a call, a line would connect them directly to the telephone exchange. The operator there would then ask where they would like to be connected to, and the operator would physically patch a cable connecting you to a dedicated line to your destination. While your phone call continued, that line was unavailable to anyone else wanting to make a call on the network. This was also why, if you grew up in the 90s, your parents made such a big deal about the cost of international phone calls, because you were paying for the rental of a dedicated line to the other side of the world. The major benefit of this process is a stable, dedicated connection that is at a consistent bandwidth. But the big downside is, as demand increases, so does wait times, meaning if every line is occupied, you have users locked out waiting for an access point to open up. When you are building upon the vision of a large, accessible network, this is a less than ideal process. So now let's take this same scenario and imagine it in the context of a computer network. The usability of this network was very much built upon the idea of reliable access to data and resources on other computers. But if it was basically a game of luck as to whether you would have an open line available to you, then the solution was either the physical installation of way more connection points at incredible expense, or the designing of a new process. And this is where packet switching saved the day. To help illustrate this, let's think about data like water, and the lines that connect locations like pipes. In the circuit switching model, a whole entire pipe would be dedicated to one person's connection to a location, even if, for stretches of that connection, they aren't even flowing any water through, or are even just sending a trickle. This leaves potentially an incredible amount of unused capacity and resource, while also other people are waiting for access. Say a location has 3 pipes connecting it and 3 people are currently connected. That means whether they are using the full capacity of those pipes or not, no one else has access. If we switch to the packet switching model, these 3 pipes are available to anyone at any time as long as there is capacity left in the pipe. So while one person is not flowing any water through, there is now greater capacity available for everyone else on the network, without them ever losing their network connection. This was way more efficient and way better use of resource. The next step that makes this even more efficient is that your water, or data, is broken up into smaller droplets called packets, and these packets will each individually choose the least congested pipe available to them at any time. This ensures more reliable access and also that no pipe will be clogged up by a massive blob, because everything is broken down into smaller, easier to transmit packets of data, thereby ensuring a constant flow of data. This is why in some countries, during peak internet access times, such as evenings when everyone in your area is either streaming television or online gaming, sometimes your internet connection can slow down, but you don't lose access. Your pipe is running at max capacity. This genius idea, packet switching, separately invented by both Paul Barron and Donald Davies in the 1960s, is one of the foundational processes that made the internet possible, and it also solved the US Secretary of Defense's initial goal of a nuclear attack-proof network. With packet switching, one or even multiple nodes on the network could be destroyed, without taking down the entire network. The packets would find the next most efficient path to their destination and carry on. But this inevitably raises the question: in an increasingly complex network, how do these packets of data know where to go? And what if they arrive in a scrambled order? Or what if one packet doesn't even arrive at all? Well, we'll get into that next time, as we continue our exploration of the incredible process we call the internet.